Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Sin Den. Unfortunately for you, I'm your host, Chandler Allen Berry. With me is my capable and confident co-host, Slug.
So,
Today, we got a real treat for you, and it's been a real doozy of a day. Started for me. Sorry, I'm going on a little tangent here. Started for me at 5 in the morning, getting up for my 12-hour shift at my job, and I spent that time sitting in the car during the rain listening to King Harvest. I spent the majority of my time doing it. And for those of you unaware or even care, me and Sluck here are security guards, and so we spend 99% of our time sitting in our office on wheels, listening to music and doing extracurricular activities. For you, it's writing out new music and practicing, or probably playing Pokemon on your Switch. One of those two things. For me, it's staring blankly at the entrance where the trucks come in for most of the day, and maybe, just maybe, I'll listen to a song or two and maybe get some writing done. Other than that, that was my day, and then it quickly dissolved when we saw the Outwaters. Left straight from work to go see it, so I'm delirious, I'm tired, and the night's still going, so it's only going to get worse. But what a fever dream of a movie! You want to talk about the Outwaters?
on topics of music, I think this is something I wanted to talk about at the beginning of the podcast. AMC's decision to charge the seats based as if it's like a concert.
Oh yeah, that's not going to last long. It's not going to last long.
It's so stupid.
People are not going to go for that. That's why we went to Regal at the Mall of Georgia. Well, we don't have to deal with that shite, and so we didn't. We got premium experience. No, the chairs don't recline and they don't vibrate at AMC Colonial 18. Shit, I shouldn't have said that because now that's even closer to our location. They're gonna find out one of these days. Someone's gonna do it. Like some Reddit detective is gonna figure out where we are.
I don't think we're that interesting to find our own address.
People are weird, man. People are weird. So
publicity is publicity.
Yeah, and if we get murdered, that's pretty good publicity.
Yeah. Publicity.
Yeah.
So, Outwaters. I liked it. I think I would have liked it better if my back wasn't in excruciating pain the entire movie.
Need that icy hot, bro.
Yeah. Other than that, I would say it's a really solid movie. If you're not paying attention, I understand why most of the reviews are like, I don't know what was going on at all. And it's like if you were watching it.
That's the problem. Most of it's shrouded in darkness with crazy camera angles, and I understand. I do. At first going in, I didn't understand the critics' comparisons to Skinamarink by Cal Edward Ball. And having seen the movie now, I get it. A lot of the threat, the danger that's on screen, despite being on screen, it's not visible. Just like Skinamarink, a lot of it's off camera. And I get it now, because then we're going to touch on Skinamarink 2. In fact, I'll do it right now. In Skinamarink, there's this scene where they use I think it's called Presto Changeo. It's the original Bugs Bunny cartoon before he fully became Bugs Bunny as we know him. And the scene is playing on an old, old TV, old analog TV, sitting on the floor, and the scene is repeating over and over and over again because I believe in Skinamarink there's a malevolent entity in the house that's learning. It's almost like a baby. It's learning to manipulate reality around itself, and it starts practicing on the TV, and it used the Presto Changeo scene to like constantly loop in on itself. And it comes back later in the film when this entity finally decides to kill one of the children, Kevin, and decides that if you're paying attention, the Presto Changeo music is playing over and over and over again, and he's killing the child. And though it's off screen, if you're paying attention, you understand what's happening. And that one is like that for the last 45 minutes of its runtime. If you're paying attention to auditory cues, to just the few glimpses of pinhole light that we see on the screen, you don't know what's happening. But I feel like people kind of, just like the characters, they detach themselves when shit hits the fan. Now, Do you want to? If you're listening to this, then you know the Outwaters, and if you don't, that's fine. You're not losing anything because you don't care. But because they don't.
Wow.
But man, I was obsessed with this movie. I'm not gonna lie. For the last few weeks, it's dominating my thoughts. I couldn't stop thinking because it wasn't the movie itself I was obsessed with. It was the concept, the idea, what little marketing I saw from just little teasers here and there. I was able to piece together what kind of movie it was and what movie I wanted it to be. And it was pretty much exactly what I wanted it to be. So I was very satisfied. I dug what it was going for, but it did drag in a few spots.
Mm-hmm.
It did, and I know you're not. You saw her falling asleep, but during the star scene
Yeah.
when he's in space. See, for me, that's when I started getting reinvested because a lot of it's just like repeating the same. Which is, I mean, that's the point. It's a time loop. Let's be honest with ourselves. That's what's going on. If you're paying attention, damn critics
They don't know.
They don't
know.
They don't know. They don't care. But we do have theories on it, and let's just get straight to it. Slug, what happened? What the hell happened in this movie?
So there are aliens that control time. It came from whether I think it's just straight up outer space. I don't think it has to do with dimensions or radioactive testing. I think it's just straight up aliens that control time and is causing Robbie to be stuck in a loop of killing his friends over and over and over again. The same night, reliving the same night over and over and over again. And I got it within the first, the third cycle. And then it proceeds to keep doing the same thing over and over and over and over again. And which makes me even more surprised that critics are this stupid that they couldn't tell that.
Oh, there's a hammering it in. Just
Yes.
open your eyes.
Yeah.
I know it's a visual medium, and most of the movie is shrouded in darkness, either to its benefit or to its detriment. That's up for you to decide. This is my take. I'm on your side, but I'm adding more to it. So the thunder you hear in the distance, that's not thunder. I think. Remember when we were talking about the Blair Witch and how it's stuck in a time loop? I think the sound you're hearing is not thunder. I think it's a bomb being dropped. That's why it's the same sound effect repeated. I mean, also because it's probably the only sound effect they had, and they just reused it for the movie. The budget was $15,000. But like in the world of the movie, I think it's a bomb being dropped because I think sometime in the past there was testing there, and we know this is a military zone at one point, a testing zone for something, because you see a gas mask, you see a bullet, and you see a restriction sign.
This also takes place in the Mojave Desert.
Yes, yeah, that should be noted that this is in the Mojave Desert, a place known for nuclear testing. And considering that Robbie Banfitch, the director and star of the film, and I'd say probably composer too, because most of the songs are all his. He's a mega fan of Hills Have Eyes, which I think is pretty evident in shows, in his choice of not just the locale, but in his presentation of the desert and the gas mask, and like he's definitely paying homage to that imagery. So yeah, I think there is a nuclear bomb testing that ripped a hole in space and time. And you think I'm crazy, but think about it. Earlier in the movie, I think it was right after the first night, right before the second night, he's talking about the strobe light he saw. You know, when the sky opened up. That's a really cool effect. It's not that hard to pull off, but like it's effective for what it is, the strobe effect. But he's describing it the next day to Angela. It's the blonde-haired chick, right? Ange.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who they're out there filming the music video for. And he describes the light as a ball, like ball lightning, and that it like folded in on itself in space. So even he's so calm about it as he's talking about. I'm like, it's fucking weird. Like this light, the strobe light that he saw, And he doesn't question it any further. He's like, yeah, but he describes it as folding in on itself in space. So we know that there is something of that sort going on. And then later with the time looping on itself, like even when he sees later when he sees the group heading into the desert for the first time, and he's calling out to them, and they can't hear him except himself, who stops for a minute to listen. So he's somehow being able to communicate with himself. And even the Axeman is also himself, which is very clear. And I saw a bunch of reviews where people were confused about the identity of the Axeman, but it's him.
It's very clear.
It's very clear that it's Robbie from the future when he's all manic and crazed. He's been through the loop so many times, he's forgetting who he is. And also, I don't know if you picked up on this. There's like a theme of motherhood sprinkled all throughout. You noticed this, right?
No.
So we have Robbie and Scott's mother, who they're estranged. And by the way, the scene where they actually go to his mother's house was not planned. I mean, Robbie planned it for the movie, but the mother didn't know. And they had been estranged for a number of years. And so her reaction to seeing her son is legitimate. And that's his actual mother, which is really neat. Scott, however, is not his actual brother. But
okay, I'm gonna pause it for a second because I can't be the only one that felt the homoeroticness of
Yes.
the first few scenes.
Yes.
Yes.
Robbie, the actual guy, not just the character, even though they're pretty much the same person. I made a note of this last episode, also mentioning James Whale, but like he's a queer, he's a gay guy, and I really think that plays into the themes of the movie, especially with the later castration and self-mutilation of his manhood. And there's a lot of imagery, a lot of feminine imagery, and this is why I'm talking about the motherhood stuff. There's a female presence over the movie. I don't know if it's like a female sentience, but there's a theme here. So you have Robbie and Scott's mother, who they're estranged from, but they're trying to reconnect. You have Angela's mother, who died, and she's having nightmares of her being in the sky with her arms are storms. So there's this already there's a very present theme of motherhood and separation from your mother. And then when they first go through the loop, they're cast into this juice, this red water. I don't know, possibly even the Outwaters. I don't know. And it's sloshing around, and if you listen, you hear a heartbeat. It's not even faint, like it's very present in the audio. There's a heartbeat going on where they're sloshing around in this goop, and then it gets spat back out through this hole. I don't know. Maybe that could be. I don't want to sound pretentious, but to sound pretentious, I think that's representative of vagina. And when he spit back out, he's got like this membrane mucus covering his body like he's a newborn baby. He's been reborn, and he's tearing at his flesh, pulling off this mucus. And I think they're all experiencing that at different times, but we're only seeing it from Robbie's perspective. But Angela suffers this. They all suffer this, just separately from each other. And they're constantly dying and being reborn until they're not human anymore, until they've cast aside their mortal shell, so to speak, and they're a completely different creature. You could even compare the snakes. Personally, I think the movie's a spin-off of Tremors, but that's just me. But the little worm creatures, the screeching worms, I thought they were pretty effective, even though you could tell they're puppets pulled by strings, which makes it even better.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they look like the graboid tongues. I love that, because Tremors is one of my favorite franchises. But I was happy with that. But yeah, even with the worms, you could, even if you really want to stretch the comparison, you could call them penises.
Yeah.
If you wanted to. I don't know. Sure.
Do you want to?
I want to call them screeching penises.
Okay.
But the movie is, considering it's made by a gay guy, I really think it's about his insecurity with his own body and himself. If not just in the context of the world and the movie, that's, I think him as a director, what he's trying to convey is that he feels out of place in his own body. And so by mutilating himself and cutting off his genitalia, he's casting aside his manhood, and he doesn't want to be a man anymore. That's also why there's so many present images of like you have the breast fondling scene, as weird as it is, but like that's there. I don't know. Like I think I picked up on that too. Um, how about you?
I was just not even with any metaphors. It just felt like homoerotic. It like the overly trying to display their both of their masculineness in the first few scenes. This there's just these undertones that like me and Willow were just giving each other looks like that's just, yeah.
So you think they're gay?
Like no, I just thought like how they shot the scenes and the dialogue came off that way, even though in the movie that they're brothers, it
Right.
just came off that way.
Because they're also in real life they're so close that they might as well be brothers. And I don't know if I don't personally know these guys, so maybe their relationship extends a little farther than what I know. But as far as I know, they're just really close friends in real life. Um, the movie kind of has this shameless self promotion thing going on with their own music, and I do want to shout out because I've listened to the entire soundtrack, and Robbie's gone the further step to give all the characters in the movie their own Spotify playlist.
That's nice.
Yeah, he gave them all like their own tracks and stuff. That's not like their own music, but music that the characters would listen to in world. I thought that was neat. Um, yeah, he definitely went the extra mile there. But I'm trying to parcel together like any more details because I think I covered most of what I wanted to say. What do you think about the bomb being repeated? And I still think it's extra dimensional. I because I agree that they're aliens, but anything not from Earth is an alien. I just don't think it's Lovecraftian. Like you have tentacle monsters. Like these are cosmic creatures. One thing that struck out to me that I don't hear anyone talking about is the voice. It has one line. It's the only time we hear this entity or whatever this malevolent presence is speak. Do you remember the line it says?
No, but I remember the scene you're talking about.
It says, "Show them."
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that? I'm kind of. It's a blur. So the movie itself is a fever dream at this point, but it feels like it comes right before the cosmic scene where he's sucked into space and he's in the stars, which again it's a cheap effect, but the way he shoots it, it looks really cool. Personally, that's why I started waking back up again because a lot of it was just dragging on and on and on. But yeah, that cosmic scene was really cool, and like they're yeah, it's a low budget, and I can't tell whether a lot of the darkness and the shakiness of the camera is because it's a low budget, so they have all these practical effects like the snakes or the giant monster that we don't get any glimpses of really. We see like through this pinhole light little glimpses of this monster like it's straight out of the Mist, which again I think the Mist and Project Arrowhead is a good comparison to possibly what's going on. But we see like little snippets of this monster. But like if it were to be fully exposed, would it look as good? Possibly not. Maybe not. And so that's why I say it's to its benefit and to its detriment that we don't really see that much. Audio. I want to talk about the audio because this in a horror movie, it's not talked about as much as it is like with horror video games, but audio is make it or break it with horror. I'd say it's more important than the visual aspect.
Yeah.
Because like there's nothing visual. I don't see many visually. I don't see things that scare me. I've watched Martyrs. I watched all the big names that people say they're supposed to scare me. Like Sinister disturbed me when I first saw it when I was younger. I've watched it so many times, but there's nothing visually that frightens me. But audio frightens me if it's good audio, like the Grizzly Man, Grizzly Adams, that audio that we're never gonna hear, but just to
see. We're never going to see the film, but we have the audio.
The Mother has the audio, but that's I hate to use that as an example. We use a lot of real world tragedies to parallel this stuff too. But again, it's something you don't see really. You don't. but you're hearing the horror, and your imagination goes wild. No, I refuse to compare it to Jaws, but it's like Jaws. It's the imagination goes wild of what's below the surface. What are you not seeing on screen? That's where the tension, the suspense, and the horror comes from. And hearing their wailing and their crying and their whimpering in the dark, I thought was very effective for the first 5 minutes, and then it lost me. Not to say I was ever disinterested in what I was seeing, but it was very repetitive, and I think the movie could have shaved off probably 20, 25 minutes or so.
I'd like to say that I wasn't disinterested. I would just also like to point out that you came in to relieve me from work, so I had been from 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. and I had to appointments that I had to take my girlfriend to around 2. So we both had a lack of sleep. I wasn't disinterested. I just started falling asleep.
You're tired.
Yeah.
And it's not the movie's fault per se.
No, I don't want to say that it's boring. It made me sleepy. It made me tired. No. I think that I'm only bringing this up because you said that I almost fell asleep during one of the scenes with the that brought you back into it.
Yeah, the stars.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, would you agree that the audio is the strength of this movie?
Yeah.
At least one of the strengths.
Definitely one of the strengths. I like the practical effects, obviously.
Wasn't as gory as you thought it would be.
No, I expected it to be a lot more gory.
Sorry, I hyped it up so much.
The critics
Hyped it up. Yeah.
Hyped it up. That was honestly the only thing I was disappointed with it. I wanted a little bit more gore. My only critique of it, and we didn't talk about it as much. I brought it up after the movie, but the editing, I'm not a big fan of in this film.
Explain, because I agree with you, but probably for different reasons. Go ahead.
It jumps too much. It's like, yes, it's supposed to be chaotic and stuff, but it even when the spots that it's not supposed to be chaotic, it jumps too much for me, and it doesn't take me out of it. It's just kind of like a note that I get. I'm like, yeah, I saw that.
I see this as like the truest version of a found footage film. This is the fully realized version of what that concept actually means. Because I found, like, okay, this is a weird tangent I'm going on here, but when I was younger, I went to the Biltmore Estate, or at least I was trying to go to the Biltmore Estate, and it was all booked, and we couldn't go. So we stayed in a nearby hotel, I would say, not a hotel. It was a very fancy joint, had a old ancient wine cellar underneath. It was like a spooky haunted house that, like, I thought Vincent Price was probably hosting over. But at the time I was obsessed with home videos and videotaping everything. So the family junction I went to, I was always bringing the camera, and the whole family was there. And as I'm filming the family, I get the urge to create my own story. Like, yeah, I'm trying to film like real life events, but I have to add my own narrative to it. So I pretended the place was haunted, and that so I was like I was fabricating paranormal activities to go along with the actual home video. So I'm trying to film real with the fake, and in order to make it believable, of course, when you're filming, you're not gonna. Even as a kid, I understand this. Like, when you film something, you're filming it in the moment, but you're not gonna film it cinematically.
Right.
You're gonna film good shots. You're gonna get moments you want to capture on film, but a lot of times those moments hit you before the camera's even on. So you're pulling out the camera in a hurry to get what you want on camera. That's kind of what I was trying to do. And of course, I hated it and I deleted it. And I did it with multiple short films I tried to make anytime I wanted to do that. And of course, I had zero budget, so it was always stuff you didn't see. It was always off camera, which is a strength and a weakness of the found footage movie is the power of imagination. So you better have a good imagination going in, or you're not going to be affected. But I compare it to that because, like, there was times where I didn't have a script at all. I'm 12.
Right.
I have no script, and I'm trying to film things that came to me at the moment. Like, oh, okay, this is a good time to film this, and then add my own little spin to it to make it more interesting and add to the narrative I'm trying to weave. But a lot of times I didn't get the camera out fast enough, so it's very not. It's not very fluid. It's not linear, and it doesn't help that the Outwaters is already non-linear because it's time displacement. It's temporal stuff. So I compare it to that because trying to film something spur of the moment, because Robbie didn't have a script. He had a generalization of where he wanted things to go, but he essentially went out there in the desert and just filmed random stuff with his friends. He had an idea of what he wanted to do, but there was no script. And it's more realistic that way. It's a realistic depiction of how people film stuff. It's not going to be cinematic. You're going to film one thing to the next, and there's not going to be a transition. So I'm okay with the visual jankiness of it. The editing visually, I think, is okay. I like it. It feels real.
I don't think the first part is as slow as everybody says.
So you've read about that stuff.
You told me about it.
Yeah, I want to get to that too because the audio again, as I was saying, not just is it the biggest strength, it's also where it loses me. Because I described this coming out the theaters like the first thing I said is auditorial continuity. You want the sound in a found footage movie because it's all the sound you're hearing is coming from the sound that they're listening to, the music that they're listening to. Everything you hear is what they're hearing. Because it states in the beginning of the movie when the police found it that it is uncorrupted. It is unedited footage, exactly how it was when it was taken. And I was worried a bit when they started playing music in the background and then it transitions to the next shot. And thankfully, the music is at a different point in time. So from shot to shot, the music changes because when we first hear it to the next shot, they're listening to it in the future.
Right.
And it's a hard thing to describe to someone who doesn't understand found footage and how these shots work. But we're jumping around in time, just like they do later in the film. And later on, I'd say probably around the middle point, car 2, whenever they first get in the car and they're going on the trip, there's points where the sound you're hearing and the music you're hearing starts bleeding in from one shot to the next. And that's what I mean by a lack of auditorial continuity. Is from shot to shot, the same sound, the same music is playing through. And that's what, that kind of bug. It doesn't ruin anything for me, but I heard Robbie in interviews talk about how proud he is of how realistic he was able to get the sound and everything, how it feels like authentic found footage, completely unedited. And I'm like, that kind of bugs me. That kind of bugs me.
Take it from him?
I'm going to take this from Robbie. Robbie, lazy ass, get back into the editing room. Which, honestly, I would say he kind of over-edited the movie. He put, at least with the audio, I feel like he did too much in places where there didn't need to be all these sounds.
I didn't think there needed to be that much music.
They're filming a music video.
Yeah, but at the same time, a lot of the scenes, the horror scenes, I think would feel better from silence rather than having shock sound music. I think, like, if you had just like the thunder or the bomb or anything like that, it's fine. But silence is just as scary as any other sound effect. And I think
like it's Skinamarink. Yeah.
Yeah, I think silence could have done this film some favors.
I agree. Then again, all the wailing and stuff is great, but too much of it just becomes jarring. And then I said this earlier. I don't want to describe this as a non-entertaining movie. It's very entertaining, but because it drags in places, I don't know. I have to bump it down a few, but I'm still very pleased with my experience. Another criticism. It sounds like I'm being harsh, but I'm trying to find things to talk about because I do love the movie. I'm happy with it. But if I had to find something to nitpick, the fact that he gets a concussion, he gets hit in the head with a fucking axe in the skull, and you hear a squishing sound. He's bleeding everywhere. He's got a concussion. Like his brain's messed up. and it reflects in the stuff he's saying. He doesn't even know who he is anymore. He's jumbling his words. He's incoherent. And then he picks up the camera and proceeds to use it normally. He's still filming. And this is a problem most found footage movies encounter is they need to give an excuse and a reason. Why is the guy at the camera still filming? Even though he's experiencing all these horrible things. It makes sense if he's filming at night. I can excuse that because the only light there is, and there's very little light, but the light that there is on the camera. So it makes sense that he's filming with the camera so he could see. But in the daytime, there's no reason for this guy who's losing all track of reality and time and space around him to use the camera. Why is he filming anything? He's got a concussion. He doesn't even know his own name.
Do you think he's rewatching the footage to try to remind himself who he is?
The only reason I don't think that's the case. Oh, you mean like during the runtime of the film?
Yeah.
That's possible.
Yeah.
Sure. I'll give you that. I thought you meant afterwards.
No.
Because it's found by the Mojave Police Department. So, can you imagine being the police officer to review that footage?
What am I going to say about this? When they asked me what happened, so this is the footage of the missing people, right? Yeah. So what'd you see?
What do you do? What do you say? Like, who do you give this to? The SCP Foundation?
Who do you call?
Definitely not Ghostbusters. Definitely not.
Men in Black.
I don't think they can handle this because, like,
interdimensional aliens.
As we're like describing what's going on and trying to explain it, it's also taken away why it's successful as horror. Because once you explain it, it's no longer a mystery, and mystery is part of the horror. It's part of the suspense, wondering what's happening. You take that away, it's no longer as horrifying. Personally,
I enjoyed it. It was a good time. If you haven't seen it, I recommend to go see it. It's fun.
Yeah, all right.
You got some gore, you got some nudity, you got some good, actually pretty good acting for a found footage film. The music that Robbie recorded was good. I liked it.
I've actually been listening to his music on repeat. It's pretty solid folk music. That's how I describe it. Even the screaming, like there's a few points where I can see it being silly, like kind of campy, but it didn't bother me because he's got a concussion, so the whimpering and the weird things he's saying doesn't bother me. Even like the crazy screaming laughter he does when he's chasing Angela through that cracked salt flat, whatever. Even that it's a bit. I can see people coming out laughing at that. But I personally thought it was fine.
There's some parts I was laughing my ass.
You were laughing at weird moments. Weren't even jokes. Weren't even funny. Literally, she mentions her dead mother, and you knee slapped. You were slapping your knee
because she won't shut up about it. It's like they make it her character. That's how I interpreted the writing in it.
Okay.
I think Angela is my least favorite character. I really think that I think that obviously it's how she's written. But I definitely disliked how much she just harped on my mom's dead.
Big whoop. Get right behind Jason Voorhees.
Plenty of people without mothers.
Yeah. Like big whoop.
But all in all, I would say it's, for me personally, if my back didn't hurt, it was an 8 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm that's a big. You'd probably get bumped up to a 9. You think if your back didn't hurt?
Maybe 8.5. It was pretty solid. I really enjoyed it, but there was a point where I couldn't move. That's how bad it hurt.
Right.
Yeah.
You're feeling the same pain that they feel day in and day out. Chiropractors are a scam.
Yeah.
Don't buy into their jargon.
I don't buy into their black magic.
No, voodoo. Like that witch down the street putting hexes on people. I'm not gonna say it reinvigorated anything or has done anything new for me, but I definitely am inspired by it. There's definitely things I want to take from this. Pieces, I think there's a lot of good here. Just like with Skinamarink, there's pieces of it I want to legitimately take and somehow use, because while I don't think he fumbled or anything. Robbie, I mean, I don't think he uh, ruined the film by some of his directorial choices. I will say that if I was in charge, I would have done things different. Not to say I'll do it better, but if it like taking this concept, I definitely would have. I'll probably done less with it. To be honest with you, I think it probably shows too much, and people are gonna fight me on that because of how little you see. But personally, I
They're
would.
just wrong. They're just wrong.
Yeah, all the critics are wrong, and it's like all their complaints is the exact opposite of the complaints I have. This is odd, but
They show too much. All the critics are like, "Why?"
and also the first card is our favorite. Just getting to know them, living in their space. It's like I don't know, very inviting. I enjoyed the first card more than the second and the third.
Yeah.
The only part of the third one I can say confidently that I really enjoyed was right before shit hit the fan because you knew it was coming.
Yeah.
It also kind of bothers me it didn't bother them as much that there's static and like grinding noises coming from underneath the earth.
Yeah.
You'd think that would be more concerning, but they're like, oh yeah, there's a current running underneath the earth. This is right after all these earthquakes are happening too, which you could say awakens something. I don't. It's really up in the air, but all in all, I'll probably give it an 8. You what? You gave it an 8.5?
8.
8?
Yeah.
Okay, 8. I think that's fair because it's really good, but there's probably places where it could be shaved off and improved. I definitely look forward to his work, but we want to talk about something we haven't talked about yet, not in depth. We've talked about movies, we've talked about monsters. Let's get to the music part. Let's make this the focus, the main topic of discussion. Would you like to introduce what that topic is?
Today,
Woo!
boys and girls, we are talking about Kiss. Not just Kiss, but personally, we are talking about my favorite Kiss album. Out of their entire discography, this is my favorite Kiss album. Dressed to Kill.
1975.
1975. This is before the first live album as well. This is almost back to back, like 3 years in a row. They put out Kiss, put out Hotter Than Hell, and they put out Dressed to Kill.
Hot take? I said this to you already. Personally, I think this is one of the most accessible albums. And if an alien came to me, say one from the Outwaters, and then wanted to know human culture and music, particularly Kiss, I would show them this album first to indoctrinate them in the world of Kiss. This is a great starting point, I think, for getting into Kiss because it's the sound of it, just all of it. It's quick, it's snappy, it's to the point, and it's that quintessential Kiss sound that defines all of their albums. And it's mostly found here, I think. If you show this to anybody, it's a very easy album to listen to.
Room Service starts us off with the first track, written by Paul and lead vocals by Paul. I really think it's a good start to keep that train coming. Right after Kiss, right after Hotter Than Hell, you got the catchy vocals, you got the catchy guitar and bass, and we'll get to it a little bit later. I think he really pops off on Rock Getaway in particular, but I can see how people can say that Peter Criss has the salt and pepper kind of drumming, but if it works, it works. You know what I'm saying? It's we're gonna say it a lot, but it's gonna be fun. A lot of this is fun. Room Service in particular, I think, is probably my third favorite on this record. I really like the instrumental, the rhythm that Paul gives. I'm going to be talking about Paul's rhythm, and Ace's solos in particular, which is going to be
quite a few.
Yeah, it's a little surprising coming from me as the local bass player.
You're a bassist supremacist. You're a supremacist.
We'll get to it when we get to side B, the first song on side B. I'll talk a little bit more in depth because I don't know if we've talked about my opinion on Kiss and how in particular Ace has affected me. But Room Service, Uh, my all in all, I think it's a good opener. It really keeps, like I said, the train chugging with the catchy lyrics, the catchy rhythms, the catchy solo in it. Because you gotta give it to the man. Almost every single song has a solo in it.
But it never overstays its welcome.
No,
And as somebody like you who doesn't really care too much about solos whatsoever, can you tell me what in particular about Ace's solos resonate with you as a bassist?
they're fun. They don't overstay their welcome in some cases. If it's just a really good rhythm, like the sequences he's doing, the techniques and everything, and it seems like he's just having a ball, he can go off. He can go off for a minute 20 if he really wants to. But personally, I like solos that are quick, catchy, and you're like, whoa, it was right there. Now we're back into he's doing the rhythm.
Means you're wanting more.
Yeah, I think I acknowledge that Eric Clapton's better, Jimi Hendrix is better, Slash is better, but in terms of guitar players, I'll go. Like I said, I'll go more in depth when we get to the first part of side B, where I can go more in depth because that particular song is what inspired me. But what are your opening statements on room service?
Instead of talking about room service, I do want to touch on. I know. Hold on. I want to say this about Kiss in this album in general, and then this song kind of starts it off for me. Like the second it starts, this is the vibe I get, and it is sustained the entire time I'm listening to it. Is tell me if I'm wrong, because I know I am. So I want you to tell me personally. I get the vibe. It's like heavy doo wop. It's heavy doo wop. Would you agree with that statement?
No.
No? That's what I feel. And I know music is entirely subjective in one's own journey, but like when I close my eyes and listen to this album, and it's starting with this first song, for whatever reason, I don't know why, it transports me to the 50s. Like a skating diner. You know, the waitresses on roller skates coming to give you your food. It takes me back to the 50s, even though it's in the 70s, but it's got like an older feel, even older than the 70s. It feels like the roots of rock.
Yeah.
It's got the heart and soul of true classic rock.
Oh yeah.
And it's like listening to just this first song it's like time travel for me. I close my eyes and it takes me back. I'm going on this musical odyssey. I know that's a really weird thing to say about Kiss, but yeah, it does. In this song, it takes me on that little bit of a journey.
It takes me on a journey. It doesn't take me back that far, but as it is, it's in the 70s. It puts me in the 70s where everybody is bumping
Kissettes. Yeah.
You know, cassettes.
Yeah.
You have to call the local venue to see if somebody's going to be there. Not only that, you got to call for pricing. And the most important part to me is that people are wearing band T-shirts of bands they love, not because of a logo. And it's beautiful to me that you would see kids rocking AC/DC, Led Zeppelin, Kiss shirts, and not just be like, "Oh, I thought the logo was cool." They were actually passionate about supporting the band because they bought the shirt to support
at the concert.
Yes.
They frequented the concerts. They wore it because they're supporting them. They listen to the music. Not like as you said, not because the logo's cool, which really bothers me with today. And I think it's a real shame is listening to this music. It's like we could see why Kiss was popular, why they were big. And to me, when I think of the kings of rock and roll, a lot of people say Elvis. For me, when I think of the poster child for rock, this kind of rock, it's Kiss.
Yeah.
They're the first thing that pops in my mind when I think rock and roll. You may think Motorhead or whatever. I think Kiss first and foremost before anything. And it's the real shame in it is I still think of them that way, but then we look at it, people. I don't want to be like a supremacist, an age supremacist. Be like, I'm 23 and I listen to Kiss. I'm cooler than you. It's not that, but it's a shame that people our age, most of them don't dabble in this kind of music
No.
and don't appreciate or know Kiss the way people back then would have. They were on top of the world, man. They're rock stars. They're gods.
This is almost right before they become rock gods.
This is on the cusp
Yes.
of greatness.
You got the first live album, and then they double down with Destroyer, which is arguably their best album.
It is. I like this one a little more.
This, as I said, this one is my favorite album. Dynasty is a very close second, but this Dress to Kill is my favorite.
Probably because of one or two songs on here that we're going to get to. But I do want to, before like we really dive deep into the individual songs, I do want to talk about like their impact and how important they are.
Yeah.
And how I think that impact's been lost. And I don't think people understand what they're losing. And that these guys were on the top of the totem pole. But, I mean, our ages combined don't even equal how old this album is.
Yeah.
That's how long they've been out. And so to see people walking around with Kiss shirts, and then you ask what their favorite Kiss song is, and it's like they don't even know Paul Stanley, they don't know Peter Criss, they don't know Ace Frehley, they don't know Gene Simmons.
But they could tell you about Rock and Roll All Night because it's their biggest song ever.
Bothers, and we're gonna get to why it really bothers me.
It's a
solid song. It's very good. It's a competent song, but it doesn't mesh well with the others. But let's move on to the second song.
Two-timer. It was written by Gene Simmons and performed by Gene. This one, the catchy lyrics. It's you can almost sing along with almost all these songs. The last one on side A we'll talk about, but almost all these songs, almost all of Kiss's discography are sing along songs. You listen
catchy.
to it, it's so catchy. The instrumentals, he like. The best thing I will say about Gene Simmons' bass playing is his resourcefulness. It's been said in interviews that he fills his bass lines with slides and bends because he didn't know how to play bass. Which, in all honesty, is probably true because I think after this album, their manager just called them in and was like, "We need to give you music lessons."
Not great.
Yeah.
Was it after this album?
I think it was after Hotter Than Hell, but I'm gonna go with Dress to Kill.
So either within 2 or 3 albums in, they're being told they probably need music lessons.
Yeah,
which tells you a lot because they're already really good here.
Yeah,
it's a little rough around the edges in places, and I kind of like. That's why I like older Kiss because they're not overly produced yet. They're not their best.
Right. He's not doing anything crazy like walking bass lines. He's not doing scales. He's a little bit of scales, but he's really just being fancy without knowing the science behind being fancy. And I think that's very admirable of him just to choose bass. I'm going to play bass, knowing that it's an instrument you continuously learn how to play. Because I see with guitar that once when you get good, you can do about anything. You can construct good solos. They don't have to be the best solos, but solos can be constructed. You can construct really good rhythms, and really like shape a song, formatically, or
Yeah.
But with bass, it is a constant hill of going up, 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 up. There's always the next thing, the next skill. There isn't like you never plateau. The only time you plateau is because it's your own fault. It's a constant uphill. It's never like generous. I think is the word for guitar. I would describe it as, because bass solos are hard. That's why you don't hear them. Not only is it because it's hard, it's because there's a lack of interest in it. Because when people think of solos, they think of guitar. But Pulling Teeth, my opinion, is the best bass solo, period. I think Jocko did a lot of good stuff. Mingus did a lot of good stuff. But in terms of actually the crafting of bass solo, I think takes more skill than than people give it credit. I mean, soloing is soloing, but I think that people need to give it more credit. They need to give bass more credit.
Says the bass player.
Yeah, but he's filling it in with bends and slides, but he's still trying to make it of the best song he can. Even not knowing technique, not knowing music theory for the most part, and just rolling the dice. I think a good bass player should do better than just hold the rhythm section. And I think why I give Gene Simmons credit is because, especially in his early work, he tries. He tries to play the bass better than he knows he can play bass.
He wanted some poon. He was going to get himself some,
Yes.
one way or another.
Yeah. So in Two Timer in particularly, his bends and his slide, or his bends in particular, make it sound like it's a more bumping bass line when in actuality it's one of the more simpler bass lines on this album. But that's why I love Two Timer in particular on this album, is because it really shows his dedication to the craft, whether it was to make money or to get some
poon, as I put it,
yeah,
so poetically.
Oh, so poetically. He's determined, and that's
come hell or high water.
Yeah, he's gonna do his best on bass, which I think he does a really good job on this one. This obviously the solos, it's ace. It's gonna be great. And overall, like I said, lyrics are catchy. I mean, and it's gonna be a lot of the same stuff. I think some of these will have more commentary than most, but another just fun, catchy, sing along song.
This is true for all the songs, but they kind of have a Rolling Stones-esque swagger. That's how I describe it. They got a swagger to them. I missed that about classic rock. And these songs, they have a swagger to them. They're songs, part of my language, they're songs you fuck to. They really, really are. They're sexy, and they I don't know. And we were saying this earlier too. We say this a lot. We say it earlier because we discussed this all before the podcast, and then proceed to try to remember all the stuff we said
off the clock work.
Yeah, right. But simplicity's key, and this isn't downplaying or downgrading their work. But you're right. Gene isn't at his height. None of them are at their height yet. They're still learning. They're still practicing. But what we have is great, but it's a little rough in places. Which isn't to say anything negative about it. That's kind of why it's my favorite. However, it's also great for aspiring bassists or guitarists or musicians because, like you were saying, Ace Frehley is not the greatest guitarist. And I know with music, it's all subjective, but to go back to I do say this sometimes too, but some things are objectively true. No, Ace is not the top tier, number one guitar player of all time.
He uses his thumb.
He uses his thumb.
When he frets, I don't know if y'all know about this, but he uses frets. And when he frets, he uses his thumb. And
interesting.
I've tried. I've tried.
It's impressive for what it is.
Yeah.
But it for someone like you, it inspires you because the music is achievable. They're not at the top of their game yet. So you listen to Ace's solos, a minute long as they are, they're snappy, they're quick, they're to the point, and they're not overly complicated. They're not showy. They contribute to the song, they add to it, but they're not overly done. And I think for aspiring musicians listening to this, and you come out thinking, if I practice, if I try hard enough, I can do that. For instance, you.
One of the first bass lines I learned was Firehouse.
Mm-hmm. How many Kiss songs have you learned?
Since then?
Yeah.
I know how to play Firehouse. I know how to play the main riff for Come On and Love Me on guitar. I know how to play the main riff for Detroit Rock City. I know a little bit of Rock and Roll All Night, and there's a few that I've sat down and learned. and it keeps inspiring me because it's like no matter how simple a bass line is, no matter how simple a guitar riff is, when you get it, that's a feeling. That's a feeling of accomplishment. That it's like, yeah, it's not your song, but you can play a song, and
It feels great. It's a
not
rush.
like you take anybody off the street. You ask them, "Okay, can you play Firehouse or just a song in general?" Most people will say no, and I don't think it's a lack of talent or anything because I'm a schmuck, but I'm able to start a band and play bass and sing. Um, and with no training, no nothing. I did 3 months of them just telling me how to learn tabs and play songs, which I wish they showed me how to do scales, do all the stuff that I didn't want to teach myself when I was at my house because it's more fun to just practice songs.
Right.
And when you nail them, that's an achievement, makes you feel good. But with learning these songs, it always just keeps me going. It keeps me from thinking, oh, maybe this isn't the best idea. Maybe you should stop. No. Anytime I learn a new song, whether it's Kiss or not, it always just keeps me going. And I think Firehouse was a big point for me in keeping my spirits up, I guess. And it's a lot of these songs, and we'll get to it. I keep talking about it. The first song on side B has was the song that made me feel like guitar shouldn't be work because I started learning guitar out of necessity to be able to communicate with my guitar player, not only tell him but show him what I'm looking for, what I'm trying to do. And with this particular song, we keep harping on talking about we'll talk about it, but that song in particular made guitar playing fun because before that it always felt like a chore to me because I guess I just love playing bass more, I guess.
More natural for you.
Yeah,
It's like having a foreign body in your hand. It's like it's poison to you, but you make do with what you got. And my ultimate point is the simplicity. Again, not downgrading your ability or Kiss's ability, but it's music. When you try at it, it won't take you very long to get it.
Yeah.
So that's why I use the word accessible. It's something that if you read it and you study and you play, eventually you're going to grasp it. It's not too convoluted and it's not too hard to learn. And I think that's why these songs, and people don't give them credit either, but people hear Kiss, it sounds all the same to them. There's a generic Kiss sound, and they from one song to the next they hear the same thing over and over again. These songs they don't sound the same. They really don't.
if you really sit down and listen to it, if you're just casually listening to it, sure, it might run a little bit, but if you just really sit down and listen, you can see the differences. You can see the different takes on the same sound.
Yeah, because they do have a sound.
Yeah.
Kiss has a definitive sound unique to them. But let's go to the next song. We have a because I really want to get to the same song. So let's get to this in betweener.
It's not the end, but the fourth song. Before we move on, I would like to say that "Ladies in Waiting" is my second favorite song on this album. But "Getaway" was actually written by Ace Frehley, but was performed by Peter Criss because at this time he wasn't singing lead vocals. That wouldn't be until "Love Gun" was shock me. But if y'all didn't know, he played all the guitars on and bass on "Getaway," and the following song "Rock Bottom." But we are on "Getaway," which is when the drummer sings and does a lot of work on the song. It's a little different from the rest of them.
Yeah,
"Getaway" is, if you've ever listened to Peter Criss's solo album, It's really, really old school roots rock and roll. And some Little Richard, that kind of stuff.
Love it.
The
Love
vibe he's got with Getaway, which is really, really refreshing, honestly, because it's still a Kiss song, but it's so different from the rest of the songs on the album that makes you just keep listening because it's like, oh, what's gonna be next?
Right, because if the songs sound repetitive to you, and if you have a really good ear, you can pick up different riffs and different melodies. They are different, but to the average listener, they're going to sound the same. A song like this, having it be written by the drummer,
Or saying
saying is
by
what I
the
mean
drummer.
to say. Saying it completely changes the sound,
Yeah.
and so you have a bunch of quote unquote generic songs, and then you get to this one, and it's way different. So it shakes things up a bit and gets you listening again.
Rock Bottom was also performed guitars and bass by Ace, like I said, but
It's not UFO, and it's not a SpongeBob reference. We are talking Rock Bottom. This almost was my favorite. Almost. God, Kiss, man, they ruined the song. I don't know what the hell they thought they were doing. They had a great thing going in the first half. They really did. Just like the Eagles did tonight, which we could have watched the Super Bowl, but we instead decided to watch the Outwaters. Good use of our time. Go Eagles. Never forget. But, yeah.
I was cheering for the Chiefs. I don't want to see the Eagles win.
I just like the Eagles, not even because of where they're from. I just like the band. And speaking of bands, we're talking Kiss. Yeah, the first half of this is this instrumental piece that, for me, harkens back to almost like classical music, the way it sounds. It's very classical sounding. At any point, I'm just expecting the violins and the piano to kick in at any moment. And I wish it stayed that way. I wish it was just this sweet, melancholic piece of bittersweet reflection, as you put it.
Yeah, I think Rock Bottom, the intro, the how bittersweet it is. It's like going with the rock star life. It's after you've hit the bottom. You've hit the bottom of the barrel, and all you can do now is reflect on the good times, even though you knew that the good times led to the bottom, led to the bad times.
Was it worth it?
Yeah, a little bit that way too. Yeah. It's what I'd like to what I compared to earlier is kind of like if after the first time Nikki Sixx died and came back and did self reflection on how, I mean, he did, but like if it was in a song form instead of writing "Kickstart My Heart."
He's proud of the fact he died.
Yeah,
twice.
Yeah,
this man cheated God twice.
If it was more like, I died because of all the good times I had. Vince is out of the band now, or at this particular time. Yeah. Vince is out of the band. Vince killed one of our friends in a drunk driving accident, and I died because of a heroin overdose. I literally died. I have flatlined. I am one of the few people to hold the record for the longest time being dead.
It's more than one miracle.
It's kind of like those kind of reflections of like, oh my God, where has my life gone? And it's almost beautiful in a music form when you can project a story onto an instrumental, whether it was that idea or not. Because if we get into the lyrics, it's not like that at all. The lyrics for Rock Bottom, from my interpretation, is just basically talking about how a relationship went south.
Yes. I mean, yes, but it's amazing how music can evoke a picture in your mind. Almost how I was telling you about how it evokes going back to the 50s, back to the roots of rock, to like some skate ring diner. That's what I think of. Was that what they're going for? No, that's not what they're going for. And yet, that's what my mind conjures up, and we all have that different experience. But with a piece like this, it is melancholic, it's bittersweet, and it sounds reflective. And going off the title Rock Bottom, yeah. It paints a picture, and then halfway through it just cuts it off and then does a 180.
My woman didn't treat me right.
Well, what do you mean? That's not what the instrumental was saying. That's not what I got. You guys are wrong.
All your pain was your fault, not anybody else's.
Yeah, what the hell is this? They dropped the ball, Alex. They fumbled it, just like the Eagles tonight. It's runt. It's ruined.
It was, like we said, it was written by Ace Frehley and was performed by, or the vocals were performed by Paul Stanley. So,
I called him Paul Simon earlier.
yeah,
I'm sorry. I know Kiss. I swear.
we've seen him.
Yeah,
We've
both
seen him.
separately, but we've both seen him.
So now we get to talk about my favorite Kiss song of all time. It's the first track on the B side of Kill, or almost said Kill 'Em All. Dressed to Kill.
That could be next.
Come On and Love Me. Written by Paul Stanley and sang by Paul Stanley. Oh boy, this is
He's
the
excited.
best Kiss song ever written. Ever written.
I won't fight you on it.
It encompasses everything that is so great about Kiss. Yes, they're scandalous. Yes, they talk about sex a lot. But they do it in a way that's playful. It's like you're having fun. It's not painting like the graphic image of like how nowadays R&B and reggae songs are like, where it's graphically like what the man is actually doing to the woman.
Yeah.
It's playful, it's fun, and when I listen to this song personally, I get the vibe of a rock star that's like, I could have any woman I want right now, but I just want you. I want you in particular. Where he's literally singing to the girl, "Come on and love me." I can love anybody else, but I want you to love. I want to love you.
Yeah.
So come on. And just like most of the kids from the 70s who listened to the live album, Ace Frehley is the reason I picked up guitar. Just like everybody, all the kids from the 70s, hearing Kiss alive is like, I want to play guitar. Now, I'm not abandoning bass. That would probably never happen, especially for guitar. But as I was talking about earlier, when I hear him, especially this song live on the live recording, and how so much fun he's having playing it, with all the energy of the live, the like, you can almost like see the image of it playing out live. I mean, there's footage of it, but like when you listen to it, I can imagine the lights are shining down on them, the solo is going off, the crowd is going crazy. That just energy. When I heard that song, I'm like, guitar can be fun. It doesn't have to be this image I had in my head of, I'm doing it because it's because it's necessary to be able to craft music. Because I feel like I have to apply myself more as the leader of the band, not in just writing songs, but crafting riffs and stuff. I needed to learn how to play guitar to be able to communicate with everybody else, in what I needed to do, what I wanted to have, and Ace Frehley really like inspired me to have fun with it instead of just analyzing it as a science. How I viewed guitar.
You talk about the guitar like it's a heathen instrument for the uncivilized. It's interesting you see it that way. I guess you would, as I say, a bass supremacist. I'm glad you've come to the light and you've seen the truth. That guitar is an equal instrument and a valid member of the band.
Chandler, I'm knee deep in the sauce. All right, we can. I'm probably not going to be as happy with guitar in the morning. It's like a spouse that won't answer your questions. So it's a spouse that has secrets but aren't dirty secrets. They're just keeping it from you just to spite you. You know, they were just out with their friends, but they're like, no, I'm not going to tell them where I was.
What did guitar do to you?
It's
Oh my God.
it's too much. It's
Too showy?
yeah, too showy, too, and then being burnt. And how I've read about how lead guitar players are, and in some cases experiencing it, it's just like I don't want anything to do with it, man.
Guitar itself, conceptually speaking, it is fluff. It doesn't need to be. You're right. When you want to go to the bare bones, basic, bare necessities, yeah, you just need drums, bass, and maybe vocals. Maybe. But the drums is the heartbeat, and bass is complementing the drums, and they work in tandem together. The guitar is simply there to make it sound a little bit more interesting and more appealing. That's it. But if you remove it, you have the most important concept, the most important beats is the drum and the bass. Those things work together in tandem as the most important things in the band. You're right. But to say that the guitar isn't a worthy instrument of the bass, I know you're not saying that, but
No.
but it's fun to have the civil war between guitarists and bassists.
Yeah, I mean, you said it best when I was talking early on why I wanted to be a bass player. Is I guess saying it out loud might be ego alert, but you worded it best when you said, "I'm the most important person nobody sees."
Mm-hmm.
Because it's all about the guitar player. It's more about the lead singer and the drummer before the bass player ever gets any attention.
As far as popularity is concerned,
yeah.
But a good bassist should not be noticeable.
No.
That's how you know you're doing your job right. If you're being noticed as a bassist, you're not doing good. You're doing something wrong that people are noticing. A good bassist blends into the background. They're not noticed. That's when they shine. And that's why bassists always stick together in these cliques, because they understand.
We don't have to worry about drama or with the lead singers doing or the guitar players doing. We're just like, I'm making sure y'all are in line.
You know,
in the shadows.
Look, you know, from personal experience. You went out to clubs. You've been out in public, and when you approach people about being in a band, they talk to your guitarist, and they dap them up, and like they talk to you, and the second you say you play bass, it's a big turnoff. They're disgusted. They don't all of a sudden they don't care, and I personally don't understand that.
Your first-hand experience leaving a bar.
Yeah.
A bunch of drunk girls in Athens come up to us. Hey, are y'all in a band? I'm like, yeah, I play bass and sing. It's my guitar player who sings, and that's my drummer. She posts a high five for my guitar player, posts a high five for my drummer, and then walks off.
Might as well have slapped you in the face and kicked you in the nuts. I don't understand it. I really don't, because the bass is so important, and the people who crap on bassists are people who don't understand the importance, and they don't understand actual musical structure, and how it's the foundation. Next to the drums, bass is the foundation of it. I'm glad we get to use Kiss as the template to talk about musical structure, because it's so easy. Kiss songs are so easy, and the way they're formatted, it's great that we can go in and dissect all their different abilities and how they work together in tandem.
To pivot off what you said about how if you notice the bass player, then there's something wrong, I kind of disagree.
Okay.
I think that a bass player's job is to hold the rhythm, to be in line with the drummer and hold the rhythm. But when they can go above and beyond and add more with the rhythm, like Lemmy, like Sting, like I'll even drag Sting into this. I think he was a phenomenal bass player that did more than just rhythm. I mean, it's interesting because Lemmy, Sting, Kronos from Venom are singers. There's a different element to it, but I think that Um, when to me, a good bass player does more than just the rhythm section. I think more than just the heart. I think they have to provide more of an umph. I think in what I'd like to see, like I'd like to say with my band is that I'm not just the rhythm. I'm not just the rhythm. They look at me for guidance. They look at me as the not just the train, like the drummer is the conductor and everything. I'm the train chugging along. It's the opposite, and you see that with really good bass players. Lemmy is a conductor, not the train. Sting is the conductor and not the train. And it might come with the the chorus being the singer. I mean, I'm not the main singer, but the idea of doing more than just playing bass at the same time. I think that all in all, I think a good bass player does more than just hold the rhythm section. And then, yeah, I think if you can break the stigma of just being the guy in the shadow, I think if you can come and be like, I think it's different if like you hear a bass line and it's like, wow, that's noticeable and that's bad. They're off.
I
Yeah,
I do disagree with my own statement.
yeah, but
Because every instrument should shine separately apart from each other. I think everyone should have equal and ample opportunity to rise above. I just mean in a general
yeah,
sense.
yeah,
Yeah, but like,
But the drummer too. I think the drummer is the reason why he's the most important is not only because he's the heart of the band and the rhythm section, but when he messes up, you hear it. When the bass player messes up, you might hear it. When the guitar player messed up, that was a new riff.
if they're a
It's
good guitarist.
yeah. If they're a good guitar player, they don't make mistakes. They make new songs.
Yeah. And everyone else has to conform to it.
Yeah.
Mid song.
You change the key, we have to change everything, but it's not our fault that we can't keep up.
Oh, yeah.
you know?
If the drummer goes off beat, it throws everybody off.
Yeah.
It's hard to get back on rhythm if they can't find the beat again. And yeah, you're right. I do disagree with
I'm
my
not
statement.
forming it as an argument. It's just
No,
adding
you're right.
points. Adding points.
You are totally correct. And going back to what I was saying about how each instrument should shine apart from each other. Look at John Bonham and Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Moby Dick. It's like a 10, 12 minutes solo, a drum solo. Santana also has one of those too, like really long drum solos. And I love, don't get me wrong, I love bass solos too. Those are all great.
Bill Ward and Children of the Corn.
Absolutely.
Or Children of the Grave, excuse me.
You said corn, I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay.
Let me correct myself.
yeah.
All in all, my notes on Come On and Love Me. It's the song that got me to love guitar. And as I said before, no, I have no desire to be a soloist. It's not something that appeals to me. I love the rhythm. I'll always be rhythm. But I don't think that degree will take away from my actual guitar playing. Not bass guitar, but guitar playing. Because I want to support people like Ace. And with more of lead guitar players that I love, I want to support people like Slash. I want to support people like Jim Root. These are all guitar players that are lead guitar players, but how they play lead guitar is so good to me that makes me want to play rhythm guitar.
Mm.
Yeah, to support people like that, so that I can help people go off like they can, because I enjoy the 3-piece more than anything else.
Very tight.
But me as the bass player, and just like in a lot of other 3-piece bands, the bass player rarely has to kick it up a notch when the guitar player goes into a solo, because if he doesn't, you can feel the drop. There's a drop in the rhythm section, and it's a lot of work and a lot of talent there, and right now I see myself playing in People Are Strange as the bass player and singer, but if it comes a time where I'm a rhythm guitar player for another band, sure, I want to be that guy for a lead guitar player, so they don't have to worry about that drop. I fucking love this song. It's so good, man. The riff is fun. The lyrics are so catchy. And as cheesy as it is, I think the best Kiss line is in this. You're good looking and you're looking like you should be good.
I agree. Yeah, slap that on a shirt.
Yeah,
it's good.
It's cheesy. It's
But Kiss is best when they're cheesy.
yeah. That it's you're good looking and you're looking like you should be good. Is it's a play on words. It's structurally fun to listen to because it's I like with lyrics that rhyme. I like it to be smooth like butter,
Mm.
and in some cases in rap music, like Eminem, I'd like to describe some of his flows as word gymnastics, where it's fun. It's like sliding butter. It's just flows beautifully, you know. And I'm not saying that Paul Stanley is a poet. I'm just saying that this particular line has tickled me, has really is up in the echelon of best Kiss lyrics for me personally.
It's tickled you.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have any statements on "Come On and Love Me"? Do it. Did I nail them?
See, as I'm talking about how each song stands apart from each other and they're all different, you get different riffs and melodies and whatnot, I feel equal about them all. They exude this charm and this swagger and this sexiness, but like you said, a playful sexiness. And this song exemplifies that. It's nothing about their songs are crass. None of them are gross or in any way.
The best example is
Uh-oh.
"Nothing to Lose."
Mm.
Everybody, we're not going to talk about it, but if you know what the song is about.
Jimmy Page would know.
Jimmy Page would definitely know. It's fun, you know. It's a playful, like in hindsight, you know, with some of the lyrics they do have, like especially in Christine 16, some lyrics can be frowned upon later, but it's also the time period, you know.
Yeah,
We're not going to talk about it in depth to make people think we believe one way or another. No, we're just saying that it's a time period. But in Nothing to Lose, yeah, it's a little forceful. It's a little more manipulative or not so much gaslighting, but it's like, come on,
yeah,
come on, you know.
but
it's fun. It's playful and it's nothing. It doesn't bluntly say what the song is about. Like for example, in ZZ Top's Brown Sugar. I know what it's about. You know what it's about, but the song won't tell you what it's about. You know?
Right. If you're paying attention, like most of these things, if you're paying attention, you'll figure it out for yourself. It's not a riddle.
No.
But there's no raunchiness.
No.
It's all in good love and fun.
Mm-hmm.
And that's this song, if anything, exemplifies that the most. And lyrically, it's my favorite as well. And just the melody in general, it's very fun to listen to. Moving on.
Anything for my baby. Written by Stanley and sang by Paul Stanley. And again, it's got the drum. This one in particular has a really good just drum beat. That's very loud on the mic.
It's my favorite drum beat. Entire album.
Yeah, the drum line on this one is really good, and I would say it breaks just like Getaway, breaks away from the salt and pepper drumming that people talk about, in my opinion. When it comes to Peter Criss, there's like we're gonna repeat ourselves a lot on this one. Some of these, especially the last track on side B, what we can talk more in depth about, but a lot of these are great songs. There really isn't any bad Kiss songs until you leave the 70s. The playfulness, the fun and almost innocence of this song, Anything for My Baby. It's he'll rob and steal anything for his baby. You know, it's catchy. It's fun to sing along with. The riffs are again. I would describe it as playful. You know, just with like the drumming and being like a marching drum line and everything. For me, I think this one isn't like a lot of these songs. There really isn't any skippable songs. I think maybe after the instrumental on
Rock
Rock
Bottom.
Bottom, because then you go straight into Come On and Love Me, you know?
It's like, yeah, let's go straight to the instrumental to Come On and Love Me.
Yeah.
This sounds so bad because I love it. It's still great, but it doesn't feel like the same song. The continuity's gone. It just cuts off abruptly into something else.
It's our own fault for having a headcanon.
Essentially. That's the problem with fandom. Take ownership of it.
Any notes on anything for my baby, Chandler?
Not particularly. It's I don't want to rank these one higher than the other, but this is not my favorite track, but it's good. It's a good palate cleanser to get the main course. Well, not the main course. Come On, Love Me is definitely the main course, but dessert.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking of dessert, let's get to
it. Still got two more.
Yeah.
She, written by Gene Simmons and Stephen Coronel. I personally don't want to, like, we read about it, but I don't want to talk about his legal issues.
His further exploits.
Yeah. He was in a band with Paul and Gene before Kiss, and they wrote a handful of songs, like, for example, Going Blind. But in this particular instance, he and Gene wrote She, which personally, if I have to pick, I think She's the weakest song on the list.
Wow.
Yeah, it might be a hot take, but I think She's the weakest. You got the catchiness, you got the catchy riffs, you got the fun solo that doesn't overstay its welcome.
It's pretty solid.
And Gene's vocals are good, you know? I think Gene has good vocals, honestly. I really the pause wasn't to say anything about it. It's more so kind of like my vocals. Like he's in People Are Strange, my guitar player does the higher, cleaner stuff, and I do the deeper, more raspy and gravelly voice.
Yeah, so you're the baritone, yeah, for sure.
Kind of as much as I love Ace, I play bass and have the longest tongue in the band, so I kind of every time I have to be Gene, but not biased. I think that this is one of the weakest songs, but I still really think Gene Simmons kills it with the vocals.
Of course,
you know,
he's never bad. Like even when you're saying like later on, Kiss gets that has some, maybe not so good songs.
I didn't explicitly say
they're not all big hits. No, some of them swing for the fences, and they miss.
I'll pick War Machine. That's all I'll give for 80s Kiss.
The problem is they had such great songs in the 70s that the future ones pale in comparison. This song, the beginning part, I don't know what it is about the opening riff, but I don't care for it. I don't know why. I can't articulate it as best as you can, but for whatever reason, I don't think this song flows very well, which doesn't say that much considering how great the song still is. Just in comparison with the rest, this song, I don't know, the opening part is the complete opposite of Rock Bottom. I think the opening of She is worse than the rest of the song. But it
definitely picks it up with the solo.
Oh yeah, which is odd for you to say because normally the solo is the worst part of any song for you, but it's the best part of the song.
Yeah,
is just seeing Ace let loose, and he's not showing. He's not showboaty at all.
He's just having fun, man.
Yeah, he's having fun, and he's adding his bit, but he knows when to reel it back and dial it back in for the finish.
Little off tangent right here at the finish line, but almost the finish line. We got two more songs, but Another reason why I love Ace so much is because I kind of write the same way he does.
Okay.
Um, Gene will spend every day writing a new song. Like at this time, they would talk about in interviews. Gene would write a song every day to completion, or at least close to completion. Lyrics, riffs, anything, every day. But Ace would only write a song every week, every few weeks, a month. But when he did write a song, fire, fire,
Mm,
shocked me.
preach it.
I mean, he's got a handful of songs he's written. He wrote "Cold Gin." Think about that. One of their biggest
Yeah.
songs. He wrote it. On this one, he writes "Getaway," which I would arguably say that it's one of the best songs on the track. I wouldn't. I've already said what my not 1, 2, and 3 are, but they would probably be my fourth. And on "Hotter Than Hell," to give more examples, "Parasite," written by Ace. I mean, at this time he's not confident in his voice, so he's not singing. Like we were saying, "Cold Gin," he was supposed to sing that song. Um, um, "Kissing Time," no, that was the cover. It's something about his that sequence of writing, because like one of the things about writing that bothers me the most is like I never feel like I'm doing enough. It never feels like sometimes I feel like I should be writing a song every day. But if it means that I'll have every song I write will be at least pretty good, rather than throwing paint on a blank canvas and hoping that something sticks, uh, I'll take a pretty good song every few weeks. Then hope.
Don't take the Ed Wood approach like Gene Simmons does. Because with Ed Wood, he would sit in his bathtub and just start scribbling away and writing random things, and hopefully there's a thin plot that did come out. And all he did was write, and then throw it out there. And because of that, the quality of his writing is not good. And that translates to musicians as well. The more you write, and it's very possible you're just that great of a writer.
No.
No, not you, but whoever's listening.
Yeah.
It's
Everybody who's listening is a better writer than me.
no, I personally am a big fan of how you write songs. But yeah, a lot of people they write songs, a lot of songs, hoping that one of them will be good. But because of the quantity, there's no quality. I say meticulously work on one song at a time, and hopefully the extra time you spend on it will be rewarded in the end. So
Quality over quantity.
absolutely, and that's just me too. With all the projects I work on, is I take my time, and that's probably to my own detriment because I take so long on everything I work on to the point where I almost lose passion for it. But with you, is you take an adequate amount of time working on all your projects and all your passions and perfecting them.
Sometimes I wring it out like a towel, trying to get every drop out of the riff that
Cthulhu.
I pull it out of the ethos. Or sometimes I'm like, I don't want to touch it. It's good. If I touch it anymore, it's gonna get too complicated. It's gonna go to hell.
Yeah.
Like for example, yeah, with Cthulhu, my song about Cthulhu, I ringed it out, man. I get every drop out of that song. But then with my Mount Silver song, I came up with the riff. The riff was great. Not touching it. Don't want any changes to it. Don't want nothing to do with it. I like it how it is.
You'll know when it's too much.
Yeah.
See, art and creative things in general are like this, where when you're making something, whatever it is, you can feel them. It's like a real tangible thing that you're pulling from somewhere else, like some other dimensions, like it already exists, and you're simply the interpreter. That's like you have your own seeing stone. You're able to peer and see it and take it into yourself. If that makes any sort of sense.
Yeah, I mean, some days out of nowhere lyrics just come in my head and I scribble them down, but spend months trying to figure out what riffs will go with it. But then sometimes I'm graced with lyrics, and then the next day, boom, pull a riff out of the universe. Or sometimes it's a riff first, and then lyrics come. It's very hard for me to sit down and work out lyrics if I don't have a jumping point.
Right. It's almost like the universe is handing it to you to give you that jumping point. It's like it already exists, and you are simply being granted access to it.
It's my turn.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, we'll give you this one.
Yeah.
We'll help you along. We'll nudge, nudge.
Right. It's a lot easier coming up with riffs than lyrics, which can be interpreted in many ways. It's yeah, I love poetry. Edgar Allan Poe is my favorite, and a lot. I think the first draft, of Cthulhu, was structured like a Poe sonnet. I don't know if you saw the first draft of it. It's structured. A lot of my poetry is structured like Edgar Allan Poe's work, but it's so hard for me. I don't know. It's riffs are 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 a dime a dozen. Sometimes they click, sometimes they don't. But I think that's the most fun thing about to double down on another topic is that bass for me is there's less strings, so there's less options of things that can work together. But when you find something that works together, it makes it so much better in the experience of playing it for me. And I actually like that's part thanks to Ace, my actual guitar playing, not just playing but writing, I would like to say has gotten better because I don't write the guitar as if I was the bass player. I'm writing the guitar as a rhythm guitar player rather than a bassist.
It's funny to me that we're talking about Kiss. We're doing a full album review of Dress to Kill, and we see when you talk about People Are Strange. But it's important because Kiss is a big influence, one way or another. It's important as a sample that you draw upon. Would you say Kiss is an influence somewhat?
Wholeheartedly.
Yeah, it's
bring back one of my quotes.
Your catchphrase, yeah, wholeheartedly. Just like, actually, my catchphrase is actually. For whatever reason, I can't. It's a verbal tick, I suppose. But yeah, it's a well of inspiration for you. Like a spring to draw upon. It's very important to you. So to compare it to your band is not entirely unfounded and unreasonable. No, it's important to talk about why it matters to you and your playing, and hopefully other people can relate to that because Kiss has been around for so long. Everyone's talked about these songs. Some of them don't get the recognition they deserve or are talked about enough. If I have to hear Detroit Rock City or Rock and Roll All Night, which we're about to get to, but if I have to hear that song one more mother loving time, I swear I'm gonna bite the bullet. But yeah, it's important to look at their influence, and because what are we gonna do? What else are we gonna talk about? Their musicianship, the way they construct their melodies, whatever. We could make it a science, but then you take the fun out of it. You take away what makes these songs so appealing is their simplicity.
And you wanted me to break down the tablature on some of these songs.
I told you that. I was like, yeah, I want the tablature. I'm like, okay, let's dial it back. What was I thinking? What was I thinking, man? But yeah, speaking of, this is the final course. Just the cherry on top. Unless you have anything else to say about the song we're currently on.
No, we got 2 songs left.
Oh, that's right.
Yep.
Apologies. Let's get to the last one.
Love Her All I Can. It's, again, it's a fun one. It's a wholesome one. Love Her All I Can. What more can I say about it that we haven't said about other songs? The riffs, solo, the vocals. Paul Stanley Paul Stanley is Paul Stanley.
Him and his chest hair, man. It's
we talked about it. We talked about this, Chandler.
Oh yeah, I promise. I promise I wouldn't say anything about his chest hair.
We were right there, man. We were ruined. Right there.
It's ruined. Delete it.
Let's start the whole podcast.
Yeah, delete it. Oh, God, I love that man. Sorry. Anyways.
Any final notes on Love Her All I Can before we talk about your favorite Kiss song?
I want something to complain about because I love all of these. So let me get to something I can complain about. There is objectively nothing wrong with Rock and Roll All Night. Apologies to the last song. That's great. Yeah, all these are great. Rock and Roll All Night is great, and that's the problem. It's a completely, perfectly competent song. But it's the most popular, and it's played on repeat, and it bothers me because it does change. Like, all the songs are consistent. Their sound is consistent, but you get to this one, and it sounds so radically different. There's the transition from one song to the next is fluid until you get to this one, and it turns into, it sounds like a completely different song from a completely different album. You disagree?
Rock and roll all night.
Yeah, it's catchy, and it bugs me because it is catchy. It's great. It fucking rocks all night long, and that's why it bothers me. There's nothing objectively wrong with it, and it's so catchy and it's played on loop, and it's kind of a disservice to the other songs. It's so good it makes the others look bad in comparison, except Come and Love Me. All the others, they get forgotten in the mix, and it's a shame. It's overshadowed completely by this. This one just towers above them like a monolith.
It's easy to say that in retrospect. They didn't know that was going to be the song. No.
They did have it at the end of the album, and usually the end of the album is reserved for the big hitters. I do think they had an inkling that this is
going to be a pretty good song.
A good song.
A good song. Not probably in popular zeitgeist the best Kiss song. Up there with Detroit Rock City, I Was Made for Loving You, Love Gun, which I hear people talk about, Shock Me, which I agree Shock Me is pretty good, but Come On and Love Me is, for me, the best Kiss song. But I can see why Rock and Roll All Night. Milo, please.
See what I mean? They all fall into the same category.
Yeah.
Of these are the top songs, and because of that, we don't even want to talk about them because they've been done to death. That's all they play, and it's a complete disservice to their other songs, which are very good. There's some songs they just get completely lost in the shuffle.
I know. You want to talk about Detroit Rock City, but we can't. We're not talking about Destroyer.
We'll get there.
We'll get there, Milo.
That's our favorite quote. We'll get there because we're always trying to get to the next thing. I apologize if it seems I'm trying to get through this album so speedily and so quickly. I want to spend an adequate amount of time on each song and have you talk about it and your experience and perspective with each song. But this one is just, it's overdone. It's burnt to a crisp. It's so overdone, but I love it nonetheless. And if you had to pick a song that best represented this album, not like just as a whole, what song is it going to be?
Rock and Roll.
It is, but just because it's so popular, it's way more popular than Come On and Love Me. Yeah. Even though I disagree that should be the case.
I mean, I got the just for, as you like to say, shits and giggles. I have had the streams numbers for Dress to Kill open. Obviously the most streamed song on Dress to Kill is Rock and Roll All Night. But you found it interesting that Ladies in Waiting was the least.
Yeah, because I really love that song. I really like, and I hate ranking stuff like this because it's all good. So to say that one's lesser than the other is not true, but to see what other people think, to see how other people interact with this art is very interesting to me because that's a very good song, but to see how it's the least listened to of all of these, I want to know why.
I'm probably at least 30 of these listens. It says it's been streamed 905,129. I'm pretty sure I'm like 30 of them. I love it. As much as I love Come On and Love Me, I think Ladies in Waiting, I'm a big portion of those listening ship.
Bump that number up to 1 million.
And I think I could make that work.
You probably will, ultimately. But that is Dressed to Kill. A very fine album and a great introduction for people who may have not heard the other two or heard their later work. I think it's a very, very good album.
It's my favorite.
I don't want to say it's my favorite or not, but it's my favorite.
I would say the Dynasty would be my favorite if it wasn't for Come On and Love Me. Because it's not because I was made for loving you or even 21st Century Man. My favorite Dynasty song is Sure Know Something. And it's a little more personal to me. But that's my favorite. And you also have Magic Touch, Hard Times, and obviously I Was Made for Loving You. But Sure Know Something is a very personal song to me. And I think we just, not to stretch it out anymore, but because of Come On and Love Me, Dressed to Kill is my favorite Kiss album.
All right, and we're definitely going to do more album reviews, and I hope to touch upon Kiss again. But I definitely want to branch out and do broader. Like I want you to talk about the musicianship and the instrumentals and all that, and I want to talk about more esoteric concepts and really get into the broader idea of Kiss. So this is what I want to talk about. Do you think Kiss's theatrics and their showmanship played a part in their popularity and their mainstay in the popular culture?
Yes.
More so than their actual musical ability? You think the shows they put on are more important than the actual music that they play?
See, now you're changing how you're wording it.
Because we'll pick whatever one you want to build off of.
So, I think what keeps people's attention, keep people's interest is they keep putting out solid music, but their shows keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The theatrics keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger. The hottest band in the world. I think theatrics were a huge part of their career, but I think in terms of their legacy, I think their music stands higher than the theatrics. Just like for me personally, I mean, people can disagree, but for me, Motley Crue, legacy for me is their music. Not the antics they got up with Ozzy on tour or the arrests they've had. I think their music stands higher than their antics or their theatrics.
I don't know. The spitting drum cage is pretty cool.
I mean, cool enough for not even Peter Criss or Eric Carr or even the third guy. The newest drummer does it, so you can see how impactful their theatrics were, even on being the theatric band. I mean, obviously you had Alice Cooper before, and even before that, one of my favorite rock and roll artists, Screaming Jay Hawkins. You can talk about theatrics even back then, but their legacy, music stands higher than their theatrics.
Yeah. So you think their actual music is more of a landmark than the theatrics that they put on for their shows?
Yeah, but people know them for the theatrics.
Yeah, they're like the new Carnival, they're the new P.T. Barnum. They're the new Barnum and Bailey, is what they are. Great showmen, great musicians, all around. Now, to keep in line with the theming of most Kiss songs, which I would say is love, and to keep in touch with the holiday season, which is right around the corner.
Tomorrow.
At this point, yeah, tomorrow, Valentine's Day. We want to keep in touch with the horror theme of the podcast, but we also want to talk love. Let's talk love. What do you got for us?
We got an internet horror story, also known as creepypastas. It's an old one, 2012.
Oldie but goodie.
Dear Abby. And we will be reading it, but first, I think it's a very interesting note that on the creepypasta.com, they have this creepypasta ranked at 0.71 out of 10.
That's criminal.
I could see 5 because there's so many better creepypastas that are on the same topic, the same kind of play out and everything. For me, it's a 7. It's a 7. It's a
It's a
solid
solid
7.
story, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand that at all. People just don't see the same stuff we see, I guess, because it's not bad at all. But yeah, we're gonna read this story for you, and to the best of our ability to get you ready for Valentine's Day.
I love as much as I love creepypastas. I know our audience knows how much they love when we read.
Oh God, it's the highlight of every podcast we do.
We promise we're not illiterate. I'm not gonna. We're not Mr. Creepypasta. We're not.
No.
We're not any of the big names. We're just gonna read it as if it's a story. We're not. I'm. We're gonna read it through. There's not gonna be any kind of hijinks or any personal voices.
No funny business.
Yeah,
this is serious.
This is a reading and review.
Yeah, come sit on our lap while we whisper sweet nothings in your ear.
Story time.
Come gather round, children. Come gather round.
Come along with me.
I want to talk about Adventure Time so bad, but I'm like, it's not right.
Let's talk about the Lich. Maybe later.
Sure. Yeah. So that's what we're gonna do for you. So everyone, sit tight, and please give us some feedback if you like this type of content, and let's get the ball rolling. Slug is gonna lead us off here. And we'll trade off every once in a while, so it won't be too jarring when it happens, letting you know in advance. But yeah, we're going to take turns. Lead the way.
Dear Abby, we've never met before, so this may seem a bit odd, but I feel this is necessary. My name's Jay, for starters. I work at the checkout line at the grocery store on 67th Street. You know, the one with the parking lot that's way too big for the store itself? Yeah, that one. I'm 24, fairly tall, and have rather scraggly appearance. You probably wouldn't recognize me if I came up and talked to you. I don't have a very memorable face. I really don't know why I'm telling you all this, to be honest, but this isn't the point of me writing you. I was working late at night yesterday. It was a very average day for the most part. Nothing too exciting happened, but you'd be surprised how interesting this job can get at times. I've been reading some book. The guy that worked at the counter the shift before me had left. It was really some crappy murder mystery, chock full of cliches, incredibly boring, if you asked me, but it's something to do, I guess. When you showed up, though, my whole night changed. I don't know exactly what it was about you that caught my attention at first, but as soon as I saw you, I got this odd feeling, a weird mix between excitement and terror. That the best way I can describe it, at least. I saw you walk into my line and I quickly composed myself. I've been slouching down in my chair for a while since I rarely ever get anyone in my line. It was the only it was only when you got closer that I realized about you had caught my attention. You're absolutely beautiful. You walked up and said, "Hey," and handed me your cart. I could tell by the way you were talking and the way you looked you were very sleep deprived, though it was unsurprising considering how late it was. After a second or two of awkward silence, I realized that you greeted me and suddenly forced out a "hi" in response. I cursed myself out mentally for that one. I sat for a second, trying to focus. "What's your name?" I said. It was only later I realized how odd this must have seemed. What kind of grocery bag guy asks what someone's name is? I'm glad I did, though. I remember you said that you were named Abigail, but that you go by Abby for short. Abby. It seemed to fit so perfectly. The name seemed to roll off my tongue as I said it back to myself silently. It was like sweet honey. It was just felt good as I said it. It seemed to perplexed when it looked back at you, and I wondered if I had done something to upset you. Should you be packing those? You said and pointed to your groceries. Suddenly shocked and embarrassed, I looked up and apologized, then calmly started shoving groceries into bags as fast as I could. I couldn't believe myself. How stupid could I be? But then I looked up and realized you were laughing. You're kind of cute, you said, and I tried to play it off cool, but obviously thrilled. A girl like this thought I was cute? You are too, I said, as I hastily packed the rest of the groceries. As you walked out, you turned around and reached the door and said, "Have a good night." And I'm guessing I looked pretty stupid writing all this down. You probably still remember it. I mean, it did just happen yesterday. But when I went home, excited that the night, and with all the conditions in the world, I feel like it's almost unreal writing it back here. Anyways, I wanted to write you this letter, Abby, to tell you that I love you. I don't know what it was I felt that night. It was a weird mixed up of emotions, but all I know was that even in the small little transaction we had, I felt as if there was something between us. Please write back soon. Sincerely, Jay.
Dear Abby, it's been a week since I sent my last letter, and I still haven't gotten a response. But that doesn't matter. How have you been? My life's been just as normal as usual. Get up, go to work, go to bed. I live in a really shitty apartment, but I guess that's what you get when you work at a grocery store bagger. I've thought about you a lot lately. I sometimes wonder if you still remember me. I saw you again today at work. This time it was at a more reasonable hour, thankfully. I didn't want to bother you to see if you'd approach me on your own. You came to my line again, which made me absolutely thrilled. This time I was less nervous. I was going to act normal no matter what you did or said. I wasn't going to let a girl like you slip through my fingers. As you walked up, you muttered something that was too quiet for me to make out and waited at the end of the counter for me to finish packing your groceries. This obviously wasn't what I had expected, but it wasn't all too bad. You didn't seem to feel anything at all, actually. I was expecting you either to come up to me and talk to me or avoid me like the plague, but instead you just walked on through as if I was another stranger. This makes me wonder if you got my last letter. You should check your mailbox more often. There was one moment where I felt something, though. I looked over briefly to see what you were doing, and at the same time, you seemed to look up at me to see how far along I was. Right then, our eyes locked. Only for a second or two, but in those 2 seconds, I saw so much more in you than I had seen last time. I felt as if I had known you for years, like I knew all of your intricate feelings and emotions. Did you feel anything like that with me? Shortly after I'd finished packing your bags, you paid and walked out. Obviously, this was a pretty normal process for me, considering I do it about 50 times every day. But I had been determined since the night I wrote you that letter that the next time I saw you, I was going to get more out of it. I kind of screwed that one up. I wasn't satisfied with it. I had to have more. There's a little room in the very back left corner of the grocery store designated for staff. In there, though, I knew they kept all the security footage from the day. All staff are informed of this and the security cameras' locations when they're hired. Luckily for me, there's one position right next to my counter. I waited until the store closed up and everybody left, and then I went in. After flipping through a few of the TV screens, I found the one that was connected to the camera by my counter. I rewinded it until about when I remember you coming in. After a few minutes of scanning, I'd found it. There you were. I paused on the best still shot I could find. I knew the camera wouldn't do you justice, but it was the best I could have for now. Having a longer look at you, I realized how truly perfect you were. Every feature of your body, your hair, your face, your legs, your chest was just perfection. I rewinded the tape to when you first came to my line a few times. I couldn't help myself. My eyes were glued to the screen. After a few minutes of consideration, I popped out the tape and shoved it into my pocket, and then drove home. I knew I wasn't allowed to. I could very well be fired for taking such actions, but I couldn't help myself. I had to have you with me at all times, even if it means losing my job. Abby, I love you. I love everything about you. I thought about you constantly now. Do you feel the same way about me, Abby? I just want us to be together forever. Right back soon. Yours truly, Jay.
Dear Abby, it's been 3 days and I still haven't gotten a reply. You don't why don't you want to talk to me? I'm still unsure if you got my last two letters. Please tell me if you have. So I got fired from my job. They found the missing tape. I got called from the store owner, my boss, at 6 a.m. on Monday, and I was told to come in immediately. They were having a mandatory all staff meeting. When I got there, all the staff was gathered around a small table with the owner at the head of it. Once everyone had arrived, he had told us that apparently there had been a minor robbery yesterday that had about $200 worth of stuff stolen from them, and one tape that would have shown who was the culprit was the one I had taken. Just my luck. He told us that no one was going to leave the room until someone confessed. After a few minutes, I finally gave in. I told him everything about how I felt, as if me and you had some kind of connection. After explaining the whole story, the entire room was stared wide-eyed at me. After I finished, I sat there in silence for several seconds. Suddenly, the store owner broke the tension. "Jay, you're fired. Get out of here now and don't come back," he said. I did as I was told. I got out of there as fast as I could. That stupid prick, he always treated me like shit. He's been on my case since the day I got the job. I swear he's just been waiting for me to do some thing that could justify firing me. And the one time I slip up, he finds out. Why didn't he understand though? Doesn't he get that you and I are meant for each other? Any rational man would have understood. Anyone put in my situation would have done the same thing, right? I've been searching up a lot lately. With no job, I have all the time in the world to spend learning about you. Do you know how much you can find out about someone with just a first name and a town of residence? I found out that your last name is Merritt. What a beautiful name. Abby Merritt. I couldn't help but say it out loud whenever I think about you. I also found out that you're 24 and you only live a mile away from me. I drove down to your apartment complex today. It looks very nice, much nicer than where I live. I asked to see you multiple times, but I was told that you weren't there every time. I felt more and more discouraged every time, but I was determined to see you again. After a few hours, I decided to stay back in the parking lot for a while waiting for you to come back, and after many hours of waiting, you did. It was late at night, around 10. I believe I saw you pull up in your car and get out. I felt a sudden rush of warmth at seeing your face again. I know I have the security camera tape to look at, but it doesn't compare to seeing you in real life. I made sure to record it for later when I was at home. This time, with a much higher quality camera, I wanted to capture as much detail poss- as I possibly could. I didn't know the next time I would see you, and the security tape wasn't enough for me anymore. I asked the woman at the front desk multiple times what your room number was, but she refused to tell me. She thought I was some creep. See, Abby, the people don't understand us. They don't understand what we feel for each other. I ended up waiting in the parking lot a little while longer until someone came out. After talking to him for a bit, he told me what your apartment number was. He didn't want to talk at first, but I made him. You'd be surprised what you can make people tell you when you're holding a knife to their chest. Don't worry, I didn't hurt him too bad, but we can't have someone interfering with us. Don't you agree, Abby? I'm sick of all these people trying to keep us apart. I ended up watching you from the parking lot for a while. Once I found out your room number and how many rooms in the complex were organized, it wasn't hard to locate. You should be more careful about shutting your blinds, you know. It was I was easily able to watch you from the parking lot. I can't get it out of my head anymore. Ever. All I do is watch that video I took over and over again, Abby. I want to be with you forever. I want to wake up in the morning and see you next to me in bed. I cannot wait until the next time I see you. Love, Jay.
Dear Abby, I have some really exciting news, Abby. I'm moving in with you. Are you excited? We could spend hours and hours and hours together. It'll just be perfect. Let me explain. My job paid just enough so I could make rent and pay for food every week. Because of this, I had little to no money in savings. Nowhere near enough to last a very long time. When you took that money flow away, it doesn't take very much time until you have nothing left. I was able to get by for a few days, but just today I got evicted. This could actually be better than I had originally thought. I wouldn't be surprised if that guy that gave me your room number has been able to contact the police by now. This way, they won't be able to find me. We get to spend all the time in the world together. Isn't it perfect? Isn't it just perfect? I made sure to bring all my tapes and photos I've taken with me, though. And my cameras, of course. You should really tell whomever's managing your apartment complex to get better staff. I was able to get by security easily. Went up to your room and knocked on the door, but I got no answer. So I decided to get in by other means. After scanning the footage I took from last night over a few times, I noticed that you have a ventilation shaft in the corner of your room. Not surprising considering how hot it can get in the summer here. I figured there had to be some kind of maintenance hatch that I could get in through. After a few minutes of looking around, I found a door at the end of your hall that seemed to be some kind of staff room. And luckily, there was a way into the vents there. I crawled through them until I got to your room. It was very cramped and hard to move around in, but I managed. When I get in through, though, I felt a rush of success. I figured since the lights were out and I couldn't see that you were home, but I'm patient. I scanned every part of your room, trying to memorize all the intricate details. Your scent overwhelmed me as I sat there. I had caught it briefly during the 2 times I saw you at the store, but never this strong. It was mesmerizing. I couldn't quite place my finger on it, but it reminded me of something. It was almost like peaches. I sat there hunched over for a few hours, though I've taught myself to be extremely patient. I can sit completely motionless for hours at a time, not moving a muscle. Not, no one was going to notice me. Then you finally got home. I felt a wide smile form on my face the second I heard the door open. There you were, my love. Of course, you took no notice to my presence. The light in your room seemed to be angled perfectly, so you couldn't see anything in the vent after the first few inches. I tried to contain my excitement, but I started breathing very heavily. I tried to cover it up as best as I could, but it was hard. You suddenly looked right at the vent. I went completely silent. After a few seconds, though, you seemed to lose interest. This made me smile. This, this was the perfect spot. I could tell I had startled you, though. All throughout the night, you were turning over in your sleep to look at the vent. People seem to have a sense of for when they're being watched. It can send them into complete panic. Don't try to fake it, Abby. I can tell when someone's awake. When someone's truly scared, sleep becomes impossible. Why are you so scared, anyways? It's just me. Why would I scare you? You do love me, right? You know I love you. I'm looking forward to spending every day with you now, Abby. Write back if you can. Love, Jay.
Dear Abby, I saw you wake up this morning. I didn't sleep a wink last night. You were too enthralling. I spent the whole night watching you. I couldn't help it. Any time I tried to look away, my eyes seemed to be drawn back a few seconds later. You were even more amazing when you were sleeping. You know, you'd be surprised how much you can learn about a person's personality by watching them. I was tempted to get out of the vent to get a better view of you multiple times in the night, but I resisted the urge. I couldn't have you figure out I'm here. Not yet, at least. It seemed to spend a lot of time in your bathroom in the morning. I assumed you were taking a shower or putting on makeup. Why would you do that, Abby? Anything you could do to change the way you naturally look would only cover up your true beauty. Why would you want to do that? Don't you want the whole world to see what I see in you? You left shortly after to work, or at least what I assumed. After careful consideration, I decided to leave the vent. I slipped my hand through one of the slits and felt around for one of the bolts. The surface of the vent was very smooth, which made them very easy to find. I grabbed into one and twisted as hard as I could, and finally was able to pop it off. I did this with the other bolts, and finally removed the grating. The first thing I did was to go over to the bathroom, quickly dispose of everything I could find that you could use to mask your face. That stuff disgusts me. This was the this way everyone will get to see you how I truly see you. I also found something else in there, your hairbrush. I grabbed it and brought it close up to my face to examine it. It was a dull blue with a very thick, rounded handle, but that wasn't what interested me. The hair. That's what made me so interested. I took a good few minutes to pull every one of them out. I could see and line them up on the counter. I counted them. I've gotten 59. This pleased me greatly. I quickly scooped them up and put them in my pocket.
I spent the rest of the day going through your stuff to learn more about you, your interests and such. I take it you're a big movie fan, Abby. I found your collection in the back of your closet. I have to say, it was quite impressive. I found something else in there that made me mad. A picture of you with another man. It disgusted me just looking at him, holding you like he owned you. I'm the only one that can have you, Abby, no one else. At about 8:30, I considered starting to get back into the vent. So that's usually about when you get back from work. Then I had another idea. I looked at your bed. The blankets hung low enough to the floor that you couldn't see underneath the bed unless you were lifted up. I first screwed the vent grating back on and slowly slid under with a smile on my face and waited for you to get home. When you finally came in, you looked completely pale, and I noticed something else came in behind you. They were talking to you about hearing noises coming from your room throughout the day. I mentally yelled at myself. I would need to be more careful from now on. Going under the bed had been a good idea, though, since obviously your first thought was to check the vent. You thanked the person and they left. Finally, you and I were alone. I sat there in silence until you went to bed. It seemed to be an eternity before you did. I wanted to get a closer look at you tonight, and this is my chance. You got in bed and turned off the lights. I was cautious, though. I waited for hours to make sure you were asleep. And when I was sure you were, I slowly slid out from under the bed. And I saw you there. You looked absolutely stunning. Every curve of your body was perfect. Every little detail was beautiful. I was in awe just looking at you. I reached out my hand and I started to stroke your face. It was soft like silk. I felt myself starting to get hard. Your beauty was overwhelming. I slowly reached down and started to pleasure myself. I tried to control myself out of worry of waking you up, but I couldn't help it. I felt pure ecstasy. Everything about you was perfect. Suddenly, you seemed to turn and started to wake up. Horrified, I quickly slid back under the bed, trying to be as quiet as possible. A few seconds, I saw you get out of bed and look around. I could sense your fear, even without looking at you. You should feel calm with me around you, Abby. I'll protect you, Abby. No one will ever touch you but me. I'd kill someone for you, Abby. I made sure to pay attention today. You didn't bring in my letter from yesterday or any mail at all. You must not check your mailbox. I'm going to change that, though. I'm going to leave this one on your desk tomorrow. Oh, I forgot to mention. I'm making something special for you. Check in your closet after you read this. Yours forever, Jay. Dear Abby, I spent more time today working on the surprise while you were at work. You're really going to love it, Abby. I put a lot of time and work into it, you know. I spent a few hours putting the finishing touches on it, and I think it's finally ready for you to see. You got home at about 8:30 again and saw the letter laying on your desk almost immediately. I started to smile as I saw you open it, waiting to see your reaction. It was really quite interesting watching your face. I could see all the different emotions and thoughts. You seemed to be confused at first, then shocked, then horrified. You started to shake violently, and I saw that you were starting to cry. Do you not like me, Abby? Why were you crying? Don't you love me? Don't you love me, Abby? Everything after that was a blur. You looked over to the closet while still sobbing. You seemed to be contemplating whether to open it or not. Instead, you ran past it and out the door. When you came back, you had all my letters in your hand and started going through them. At some point, you seemed to break down and curl up on the floor, tears still rolling down your face. I could tell you were desperately trying to say something, anything, but you were paralyzed in fear. After about 10 minutes, I saw you look under the bed, in the vent, anywhere I could be. You see, though, Abby, I'm smarter than that. I knew you'd look in those places. I found a better place after I finished your surprise. You'll never find me here. No one will. Isn't it great? I can watch you forever and ever, and there's nothing you or anyone else can do about it. You hadn't found your surprise yet, though, Abby, and I can tell you, you were still thinking about it. I saw you look over to your closet. I knew you wanted to open it, but at the same time, you were nervous. What was going to be in it? What would you find? This couldn't last forever, though. You and I both knew that. I watched you slowly walk over to your closet, fumbling with the handle, trying to get a firm grasp on it. Suddenly, you flung the doors open and saw it. It was a scrapbook of me and you. I saw you flipping through the pages. You seemed to be shocked. Do you not like it, Abby? I got pictures of you and I when you weren't looking. Pictures of you sleeping. Pictures of you at your computer. I'd scattered the hairs I had collected throughout it, along with pictures of couples together, of course, with our faces on them, though. I got that picture of you with the other guy and put it at the very back, except I didn't leave it like it normally was. I scratched that little prick's face off. I hate him so much. If I knew who he was, if I knew who he was, I would hunt him down and make him suffer. Don't you get it, Abby? No one can have you but me. Me and you are meant for each other, no one else. I watched you sob for another 30 minutes and then get up and run out of your apartment. Shortly after, you came back with multiple policemen. This shocked me. Did you not like the surprise, Abby? Why would you bring these people into our room? They'll never find where I am. But if they did, it could ruin everything. All my work from the last few weeks would be for nothing. You wouldn't want that, right, Abby? Right? I'm exhausted from today's work. And as much as I love you, I need sleep, Abby. Please. Have a good night. I love you. Love, Jay. Dear Abby, did you see what you've done, Abby? Do you see what you've done? I woke up at 8 a.m. to see you frantically packing your bags. I was confused at first, but then I understood. You were leaving me. You don't love me. You don't love me. How could you do this to me, Abby? You were the only thing I wanted in life. I had nothing else to live for. But when I first met you, I saw a shimmer of hope. I thought I'd finally have reason to wake up in the morning and go on with my shitty life. And you went and threw that away. How could you do this to me, Abby? A few seconds later, after you left your room, I got out of my hiding spot and followed behind you. I saw you throw your bags in the back and then get in your car and start it. I wasn't going to let you get away, though, Abby. I would never let that happen. Never. I ran as fast as I could to your car and smashed out the window and dragged you out. Did you really think you'd get away from me, Abby? I had to hit you over the head to knock you out. You were making too much noise. Someone else, someone that doesn't understand, could have seen and ruined everything. Well, I had a plan for you if you reacted like this. I drove out to the storage unit at the edge of town. I'd reserved a slot the day I decided to move in with you. I drove up and unlocked it. I grabbed you and carried you inside with me. It had only been a few minutes, so you were still unconscious. I made sure to check through your pockets to make sure you didn't have your phone with you. I set you down at the very back of the small room. Then I got in and lowered the door. I called the owner of the storage unit and told him that I had visited my other lot and told him that I had visited my lot the other day and forgot to lock it, and asked him if he would mind locking it for me. Of course, he said yes, and I hung up. I then threw the phone on the ground and stomped on it to make sure that it never work again. Shortly later, I heard the owner come up and lock the door. About an hour later, I saw you start to get up. I first heard a very faint grunt. Then, I saw your legs start to move. Shortly after, you were fully awake. When you saw my face, you started to scream, which then subsided to a whine, and then to a whimper. That's when you saw it. The one other thing in the room. My knife. It was obvious why it was there, and after a second or two of realization, you jumped and grabbed it. I looked you dead in the eyes and said, Abby, I love you! And then I felt the searing pain of the knife being driven into my side. I felt it being pulled out and jagged back in with great force. I could feel it go in each time, like a fire burning a hole through my chest. I fell to the floor, laughing while coughing up blood. I saw you back away, trembling, and sit back down in the corner. And now, as I sit here in a puddle of my own blood writing this, I wonder how you'll get out. Will you use the knife to take your own life? Or will you let starvation take you? Either way, we'll be together in death, Abby. Together from the day I saw you till the day we both died, just as I wanted it. And as you sit there crying, I can tell you've come to this realization, Abby. This is all I ever wanted. And for that, I have to say, thank you. Love, Jay.
I dropped the ball on that one. I think I dropped it a little harder than the Eagles did.
Shut up. You shut up. You and your dyslexia ruining the creepypasta? Kyle Smith is frowning upon you right now. Without their beautiful story, we wouldn't have wasted 3 hours of our lives struggling to read that. We started it at 2 o'clock in the morning, and it's almost 5. It's currently 4:51 in the a.m.
I'm sorry. All right?
Sorry, it's not good enough. Get more than a second reading level. Second grade reading level. That's what you need to do. This is your fault. This is your problem.
It's always my fault. That's why I should quit the podcast.
No.
I'm the least qualified here.
You're the most qualified person here. You do all my heavy lifting. Please don't leave. You're the only reason this is going to be successful. Folks, thank you for dropping on by. It's been a God-honest pleasure. And we hope to see you soon. Slug, anything to add?
Next week will be better. I'm sorry.
I sure hope so. Who do you blame for this?
Barbara.
Fuck Barbara.
Fuck Barbara.
She's the reason you have dyslexia. Folks, next time.